Hey, good afternoon, good morning, whichever's applicable, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry I'm not with you today. Well, hopefully, one, you've got your warm-up questions done and you are following the instructions of the substitute and being on your best behavior while I'm gone. But that being said, I'm out today. I've got a long-term family friend who passed away, and there's a funeral. I felt like it was important. I went to. My grandparents aren't healthy enough to come down and go, and my parents are out of town, so I'm kind of going on behalf of the whole family, and gonna lend my support there. So I'm gonna be out for today, but I think that we'll be all right. You've got your warm-up questions done. I'm reading those real quick. Um, And then in just a moment, I'm going to go over the lecture notes with you that are available on this link in the Google Classroom. And after that, you're going to have some book work to do. Now, we talked about the end of the French and Indian War, which you just mentioned in your warm ups. You talked about mercantilism and how mercantilism was very dependent upon the idea of keeping everything in house. So, like, the English only wanted to buy things from the colonies because the colonies were English. They wanted the colonies supporting England so that they could gain more wealth than their rivals like Spain, France, and other countries. And so they've also just had this war, the French and Indian War, which was also part of the 7 Years' War. And that's over now. It's 1763. They finally found peace, but there's going to be two main disagreements that we're going to talk about today between the colonies and England. Disagreement one is going to be about land and land usage. Disagreement two is going to be about taxes. So the first one, disagreements over land, and you should have this slide available on your Google Classroom where you found the link to this video, unless you're watching it through the sub, which I'm going to try to set up before I leave in the morning. Okay, so they were disagreeing over land because, as we talked about previously, the French and Indian War was about controlling the Ohio Valley. And when the Ohio Valley is now clear to the French, many English colonists want to move into it. And so they travel in and they upset the Native Americans who are still there. Various tribes, under a guy named Pontiac, band together to fight back against these English settlers. It's an early example of cross tribal Native American unity, and they meet with some success. They're actually able to drive the colonists back for a while. But the Native American alliance was counting on having French support to fight the British. With the French and Indian War, the 7 Years' War, ending in 1763, that Native American alliance kind of falls apart. However, good for the Native Americans, the English get the hint that there's going to be problems if their colonies continue to grow west. So they pass a proclamation of 1763, and they essentially tell the colonists, hey, you can do whatever you want on the coast, but you have to stop when you get to the Appalachian Mountains. Many colonists are going to take offense at this. They're going to think, well, we just won this war so that we could clear the valley. Why are we going to not live there now? Why are you going to tell us from thousands of miles away that we can't go there? So that's going to alienate and irritate many of the colonists, and they're going to choose to move west anyway. England, trying to protect the colonists and keep the peace, are going to send troops over 10,000 troops, in fact, to move into the colonies to enforce the proclamation of 1763 and keep the colonists from moving west and try to protect them from the Native Americans. So that's the disagreement over land. Colonists want to move west. England does not want another war. Wars are expensive. So they want the colonists to stay put and just live in the area that they've already claimed. Now, the second part, the second big disagreement between England and her colonies, and this is slide two, it's kind of a teal blue color, disagreements over taxes. Now, by 1763, the end of the French and Indian War, England has a lot of debt to pay. This war was going on not just in North America, but it was going on in Europe and Asia as well. Very expensive. So they've got debt there. Then they just sent this new army to the North American continent to protect the colonists. So that's expensive too. And England's trying to figure out what are we going to do to pay for all of this stuff. So to them, it made sense that they should have the colonists help pay for some of this. So what they do is pass a series of taxes in the 1760s and early 1770s. They passed the Sugar Act on molasses. Later, they passed a Stamp Act on paper products like newspapers and licenses and playing cards, really any paper product. And then later, they passed the Townshend Acts that are on common things like glass and lead and paint, stuff that people use all the time, and that they were taxing. Now, each time they did this, the colonists got upset. Now, the colonists were upset because these taxes were passed by British Parliament, and Parliament's job was to uh, decide what taxes would be passed for the kingdom or the English Empire. And Parliament had no one in it representing the colonies. If you remember, we've been talking about the colonists having their own representatives, elected assemblies that help make the laws. The colonists have no say in what's going on in Parliament. So many of them are very upset by this. They feel like Parliament should not be able to tax them. So they're going to start protesting. Now they protest. There's a time where they send Ben Franklin over, and he's supposed to kind of speak for them and appeal to Parliament to stop this. And other times they just straight up smuggle. They avoid the British taxes by taking their ships and running past the customs houses, bribing officials, intimidating people that are going to collect taxes, uh, and then straight up boycotting. Now, a boycott is when you refuse to buy a product. So if there was a tax on glass, for example, they would refuse to buy glass or only buy it if they could get it smuggled. So the glass merchant hurts, their business is hurting. They're not paying taxes anymore now. And so it's going to hurt business, it's going to hurt tax revenue. And so these boycotts would upset the British government enough that they would repeal the tax or cut back on the tax extensively. And this works again and again, um, but it's going to fall short in the early 1770s. And we'll get there tomorrow. But the big idea for you for today that I want you to take away from this is um, the British, the mainland England and Europe, and the colonists are disagreeing over how to use the land in the Ohio Valley. That's one. And then two is tax policy. Should England be able to tax the colonies? For the rest of your class period today, there's a reading assignment that's going to expand on these ideas we just discussed. And there is a Google form online that you're going to do. You'll answer a few questions on some of the reading and turn that in. That'll be your assessment, your graded assignment for the day. If you have any questions, I will mostly be free except during the actual funeral. So if you want to shoot me an email and ask a quick question, I'll try to answer that. But I think the assignment's pretty straightforward. Anyway, I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Thanks.